Hello, today we are going to be talking about my most anticipated releases in the fantasy, sci-fi, and horror categories for the rest of 2022. As of right now, it is June, so I will be talking about books coming out anytime from July to there's actually one that is coming out in January of 2023. Other than that, they are all from 2022. We are going to be going in order as well, so I will start out with the most newest release as of right now, as long as nothing changes, going into the one that will be released at the end of this list. We are going to be talking about books I'm excited for, so I'm sure there are plenty of other books that either I have not heard of or that I am not excited about. So if I don't mention one on this list and you think I would be into it, feel free to list it down below. First up, we have Upgrade by Blake Crouch. So I really enjoyed Recursion, but I did not really love Dark Matter. So I'm really hoping that this one will be leaning slightly towards Recursion more so than Dark Matter. Upgrade is about this man who starts to notice that he has these extraordinary abilities, and he thinks that he has been hacked, his DNA has been hacked somehow, and so he starts to lean into it to try to figure what is going on. And he learns about some kind of conspiracy where the government is going to be trying to change all of mankind through this DNA hacking and this like almost evolution quickly happening that is being forced upon people from science. And I believe that it's going to lead this man into a place where he is no longer feeling like a human himself. Next up, we have What Moves Death. I have not read any books previously by this author, but I definitely have interest in them, as this one sounds like a really gruesome, dark horror where a soldier who uses they them pronouns returns from war or a battle of some kind to their home mansion and finds it overrun with rot and decay and disgusting nature. And when they are there, they start to try to figure out what they can do to make it stop. Up next is Wake the Bones, and this one is actually the only one on the list that I have previously read because I did receive the arc of it, but I wanted to put it on here because I really enjoyed this book and I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. So I would love everyone to go and check it out and read it. But basically we are following a young girl who believes that college is no longer the choice for her, so she returns back to her homeland where she is being haunted by the death of her mother and the land itself. The land she believes is being controlled by the devil, so she teams up with some of her friends from when she was a child and some other people that she isn't really friends with, and they try to figure out what's going on. This is a gay multiple POV Southern Gothic story that was just absolutely beautiful with the YA horror aspects and the magical realism and just the dark elements, and I highly recommend. Up next, we have The Women Could Fly. I have read Lakewood by this author and I really enjoyed that one. I am a little bit confused after reading this summary as to what exactly this book is going to be about, but we are following a young Black woman. I believe she's 28 years old. Her mother died or disappeared a long time ago, and she is part of the society where women are being watched closely unless they get married or follow in like certain careers that the government is okay with. And our main character is getting to the age where she needs to start making decisions about what she wants to do with the rest of her life, if she wants to get married or if she wants to continue being watched by the government. I believe it's going to be a strong feminist piece just like Lakewood was, and I think it's going to have a lot of things to say about being specifically a Black woman in the States, and it's going to use kind of horror and sci-fi and dystopian elements to talk about real things that are actually happening in people's lives today in a more exaggerated way. Next, I have These Fleeting Shadows by Kate Alice Marshall. Now, I have read 2 books by her previously, loved both of them. Rules for Vanishing and Our Last Echo. Those two are standalones, but they fit in the same world together. These Fleeting Shadows is not part of that world, which is the Ashford Files, but it is a haunted house story. We are following a young girl named Helen, and she doesn't know why she has inherited this haunted house called Harrowstone, or Harrow is what they've been calling it for short, but she has been haunted by Harrow for most of her life. Now, she is told that she can inherit these riches and have all of the money that she could ever need along with the house, as long as she can stay in the house for 1 year. I don't know if that means literally don't leave the house for a year, or if that means she is just calling the house her home for a year, but I'm sure there are going to be lots of haunting elements and lots of crazy weird things happening. Alice Marshall does a really good job writing horror for YA horror, where it is creepy and it is horrifying, but it isn't overly so that you're like afraid for your life. And I've heard this book compared to The Haunting of Hill House and Knives Out, which I have not read The Haunting of Hill House, but I have seen Knives Out, and I would love to read a book that is compared to that movie. Belladonna is, I am not going to lie, mostly a cover buy. If you haven't seen the Amazon first edition publishing of this book, I highly recommend that you Google it. But this is a YA fantasy about a young girl named Signa, who has been passed from guardian to guardian. Each of their guardians is trying to steal her wealth. I hear that, I think of Series of Unfortunate Events, I'm not gonna lie. One day she ends up with a guardian whose late wife has just passed away, and so she starts to investigate this murder with death itself. Even though her and death don't get along, they seem to start uncovering some things that are very, very suspicious. A Taste of Iron and Gold is another book that I've read the summary a few times, and I'm still a little bit confused about what it is about, but I do know that it is going to be an epic adult fantasy with a gay main character and a gay romance. Also not 100% sure how to pronounce the name of our main character, but it is Kadou, so I'm gonna go with Kadou. And he is the prince of this realm. He finds himself in butting heads with a new figurehead who has come to court, who is going to be the queen's baby daddy, is basically what I have figured out. To prove his loyalty to the queen, who is his sister, he starts to investigate some weird things that are happening around the palace, and I believe that him and the baby daddy Evermere are going to team up together to investigate these things, and I'm assuming they're the two that are going to be falling in love with each other. Next up we have Nona the Ninth, which is probably one of the books I am most excited about this year, not gonna lie. This is the third book in the Locked Tomb series, so the first book being Gideon the Ninth and the second book being Harrow the Ninth. Now if you're thinking, let me skip ahead, I don't want to hear what this is because I don't want any spoilers, I just want to say that reading the entire summary of Nona the Ninth didn't spoil a single thing, because it feels like it's actually a fever dream that someone in one of the other books is having. So let me read to you really quickly just 3 lines from it. So it says, her city is under siege, the zombies are coming back, and all Nona wants is a birthday party. And then it talks a little bit about this perfect life that Nona is living. And then at the end it says, and each night Nona dreams of a woman with a skull painted face. It sounds a little bit like Harrow the Ninth, where you're going to have some kind of intrigue and not understand what most of the story is being told about. And then near the end, things are going to start making sense. There are already predictions online. There were the day that this book came out, people wondering which girl they think Nona is going to be. I have my own predictions, but I'm not going to say anything here because it is basically believed that Nona is going to be either Harrow or Gideon in secret. But we don't know anything, at least not until September. Chloe Gong is coming out with a new book, and it is Foul Lady Fortune, which I'm assuming just based on the title is going to be a retelling of My Fair Lady. I'm pretty sure I'm making that up. I don't listen to anything I just said, but she is coming out with a new book, and it is going to be taking place in Shanghai in the 1930s. In this story, we are going to be following Rosalind Ling. She has been brought back from the brink of death, and when this happens, she now has the ability to heal very quickly from anything and can basically not be killed. And so she goes into being an assassin with the code name Fortune. But when the Japanese army attacks or invades where she is living in Shanghai, she is teamed up with a nationalist spy named Orion. Orion is someone that she does not get along with. He is a playboy, and they are doing a fake relationship together in order to fly underneath the radar. The two of them are going to team up together to figure some things out and to hopefully stop the bad people from winning. Next, this is probably my next most anticipated release, might be lying, it might be my third most anticipated release, The Genesis of Misery. So this is a Joan of Arc in space retelling, which I love Joan of Arc, and I haven't read a book retelling that story ever. If you guys know one, please leave it down below for me in the comments. But we are following a person whose pronouns are she, they, and her name is Misery. And Misery is working on a far off planet mining for this precious stone, which helps power the saints, I believe is what it is. Unfortunately, people who are becoming saints can also be misdiagnosed as someone who is going into void madness. So our main character does not believe that she is becoming a saint, she believes that she is going insane. When she starts to hear the voice of angels in her head, Misery is led to the center of the empire where she is starting to try to figure some things out. There she becomes part of a terrible war that is plaguing the land and teams up with a woman who might know more about the saints than Misery knows themselves. Next is the Atlas Paradox, and this is why I am putting The Genesis of Misery into third place, because I actually think this one might be. I don't know if I'm more excited for this or Nona, to be completely honest, but I am very psyched for both of them. So the Atlas Paradox is the sequel to the Atlas 6. The Atlas 6 is about 6 students, 6 contestants who are brought into this academic setting where they must compete against each other, because at the end of the year 5 of them will continue on into this high society and 1 of them will not. And so with the events that happen at the end of book 1, I will not be spoiling anything for anyone here. The ones we burn is going to be a little bit hard to explain. So we are following a young woman named Ranka, and she is tired of death and she is tired of killing. The horrors of her past are coming back to haunt her, and so she needs to figure some things out. She is living with a coven of witches who have possessed her to go off and kill. I believe they've used blood magic to force her to kill whatever they need her to do. And they send her off to kill a prince who is terrorizing the land. When she arrives though, the prince is actually a very gentle, peaceful person, and it is actually his sister who is causing all of the problems. The sister and our main character team up together to figure out what's going on and how to stop things, and I do believe that this is a sapphic story, so I do believe that those two characters will end up together by the end. Next we have The Lost Metal, which is Brandon Sanderson's 7th book in the Mistborn saga, but it is the 4th book in the 2nd era of Mistborn. So you don't necessarily need to read the first 3 books, which are era 1, which follow Vin and Kelsier as they are trying to save the world from the ruler, but the 2nd era is much more of a Western setting. There is magic still that has to do with consuming metals and being able to push and pull things, but we are following Wax and Wayne. Wax is a detective, Wayne is his spunky sidekick. It is like a 1800s Industrial Revolution Western-esque setting, which is really fun for a fantasy. Brandon Sanderson writes such great characters, and these are much shorter than a lot of his other books, so it's almost like getting a little snippet of a fun little story of these characters together. Now, I do believe that The Lost Metal is going to help us connect this world into the Cosmere as a grand total, more so than some of the previous ones have done, but I have no proof of that. And I believe that this is not the last one in the saga. I think there's going to be one more, but I am not 100% confident in saying that, so I wouldn't take my word for it, to be completely honest. Next, we have another book by Olivia Blake, and so this is Alone with You in the Ether. This book actually was previously published by her, just like the Atlas 6 was previously indie published, and is now being taken on by Tor, and they are going to republish it. I am absolutely obsessed with this blue cover with the bees, and when I read the summary online, I almost don't even want to read it to you guys because it sounds so good, and I'd love for you all to go into it blind, but if you'd like to know the summary, I am about to tell it to you all. So we're going to be following 2 characters. One is a student trying to get his doctorate at an art school, and one is a woman who has bipolar disorder, and she is a counterfeit artists. The two of them meet, they start to understand more things about time and space and physics. Now, the part that I didn't want to tell you all that is in the summary is this part here, and it says, for both of them, life is a matter of resigning themselves to the blueprints of inevitability until 6 conversations with a stranger form the variable that glitches the entire simulation. I love Olivia Blake's writing. I, to be fair, have only read the Atlas 6, but I like how she takes things and turns them and you almost don't see it coming. And so I'm very excited to watch her do this to me once more. And then the final book that we'll be talking about, the only one that is coming out in 2023, January to be very specific, is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. So this is the sequel to Ninth House. Many people have enjoyed that book. Many people have not enjoyed that book. For me, I really loved it. It is a dark academia murder mystery with some magical realism taking place at, I really want to say Yale, but I feel like I might have gotten that school wrong. We're following Alex Stern, who is investigating the disappearance of this young girl while also trying to figure out what happened to her friend Darlington. Now, I believe book 2 is going to focus a lot more on Alex and Darlington and getting Darlington back based on where the end of book 1 left us. This is a very adult series. I highly recommend it. I highly enjoyed the dark elements, and I love this cover so much. It's so creepy and eerie, and I hope that this book is just even darker than the first one. So those are all of the books that I am really excited to be getting to the rest of this year that have not been published yet. A lot of them I already have on pre-order, so I cannot wait for them to arrive to my home and for me to be able to read them. I'm gonna need you all to yell at me if I don't read them pretty much right when they get published, because I've been thinking about so many of these for so long. That's it. Let me know down below if you have any more that you're really excited to be reading the rest of this year. And as always, I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you're doing okay. I don't remember how my outro goes, but until next time, I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye.